but guess what I did?
I finished paying, selling Maybach, Maybach. I finished paying, selling Maybach, Maybach. I finished paying, selling Maybach, Maybach.
Woo! Y'all might be wondering where I have been. I feel like I'm always having to apologize, so I'll just not apologize. I'll just do better. So thank you for your patience with me. I have been away, just really trying to knock out all of my big goals. If you recall, I did a video a while back about doing better with your money. At the time, I was aggressively trying to pay back my student loans. As of October 1st, I finished paying off all of my student loans. I had $30,000 total of student loans. And so when I finished undergrad in 2011, I started paying them back. Y'all have no idea what a relief this is to me. I hate owing people money. I hated the fact that Sallie Mae and Navient felt like they had the right to just like call me and ask for their money back. I don't like being a debtor at all. So God really helped me take care of that. So I think it's really important to share the journey and how I did what I did. First of all, right after graduation, when I had, I think about $20,000 in undergraduate loans, I started my first job out of college, which was Teach for America. So I was a teacher. I happened to be stationed in my hometown. While I was teaching, I ended up living at home for the 2 years. At first, I wasn't super thrilled about the idea because I wanted to be independent and live my own life, but it ended up being the best financial decision I could have made. Shout out to mom and dad for not making me pay rent while I lived at home. So in those 2 years that I lived at home, I saved a chunk of money, a lot of money. I think most of my expenses included things like gas, spending money, but even then I wasn't spending a whole lot of money. I was pretty thrifty. I was just really dedicated to paying off that debt as quickly as possible. I remember there would be times that I would get the check and I would just send it straight to Navient, like huge chunks of money, like thousands at a time. I was just like just sending them over because I wanted it done as soon as possible. So I would say I paid a large chunk of my undergraduate debt while I was teaching. And I was still paying towards my teacher's retirement and those types of things at the same time. Then when I moved on from teaching into graduate school, this was my #1 mistake for graduate school. I didn't even need this loan, but they offered me a $10,000 loan when I first started. And I was like, yeah. The financial situation of graduate school itself was absolutely a God thing. I can't tell this testimony without really hammering in on that part. Syracuse University is where I went to for grad school, a 2-year master's program. And so in the 2 years that I was there, the first summer I didn't have financial aid, which is why I had that $10,000 loan. But after that, all of my expenses were covered. I was a teaching assistant, I was a graduate assistant, and all these jobs came with tuition credit, so I was able to pay off my tuition and still have a stipend. So a lot of times when people think about private schools, they're like, oh, maybe I'm not going to get any scholarships, I shouldn't go. This is kind of like a mini public service announcement for a master's program at Syracuse University. For my particular situation, they were quite generous in financial aid, so that could have been way worse of a financial heavy lift for me. I walked away with $30,000 in loans total from undergrad and graduate school. After graduation, I moved to Syracuse, New York. Syracuse, New York has an extremely low cost of living, in my opinion, a low cost of living. And my apartment and my utilities, all those types of things were relatively inexpensive. So I kept my standard of living pretty low, even though I was making good money. I wanted still to save money. Every month I was budgeting somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 to pay off those student loans, just like I don't think my life really suffered all that much for having to give up that chunk of my money every single month. I thought it was okay. I really had a good budget that was realistic. I lowered a lot of my spending in other areas. These days I tend to be more experiential than I am possession oriented. So I really had to hunker down and be like, okay, what are my priorities in this season of my life? I think a lot of times people think when you're paying off debt, you have to be miserable and eating ramen noodles all the time. I mean, I ate, I had fun, I had a life, I was social. When I was starting to think it was impossible, there was a time that I went online and I looked at a loan calculator for the snowball method that Dave Ramsey talks about. and I put in my loans, and they kind of whipped up this formula that said, if you pay this conservative amount, this is when you will be debt free. If you pay this aggressive amount, this is when you'll be debt free. And I was like, oh, the difference was like night and day. I thought, okay, I can do the aggressive part. I'm a little intense at times when it comes to these types of things, so I can do it. So I sat down, I said, okay, this is something I want to do. I'm gonna just focus for a year or two. I was really thinking it would maybe take me 5 years or so. And so over the amount of time, had I been this aggressive all along, I probably could have done it a shorter amount of time, but I have no regrets. I think this is the right time in my life to experience being debt-free. I don't have credit card debt. I don't have any other kind of consumer debt or anything like that. A mortgage is probably the only other kind of debt that I would go into after all of this. Some little things like I didn't go out to eat as much. I had gatherings with friends where we came inside instead of going out all the time. And another kind of snag in my plans was right towards the end when I was so close to paying off my loans. I mean, like 2 or 3 payments left. I made the decision to get a lawyer so that I could expedite the process of Style Lottery, my nonprofit, becoming an official 501c3 U.S. recognized charity. I thought it was really important to do it the right way. I'm very much DIY in a lot of things, but legal stuff, I'm not about to play and act like I know the law. So I got a really, really great lawyer. She came highly recommended, but her lawyer fees were taking up what I would have used for my payment plan for my loans. And so I had to make the decision, is becoming a 501c3 an important goal for my organization, or should I just do my loans first and then do that later? So that was my big priority that I had to figure out. I decided I wanted to do both at the same time, so I kind of split up my payments, and so I was still giving to my loans, but for one of those months, I really just made sure I could pay off that lawyer fee. It wasn't too bad, but it was substantial for my budget at the time. So now after all that, like I said, October 1st was my liberation day. I don't think I even did anything special. A friend got me a bottle of like sparkling cider and we celebrated, but it was one of the biggest accomplishments I've done. I'm making this video to really brag on God, number one, because there were some times where I was like, might don't make it. But secondly, to give people hope if you are starting this process and you're looking at your loan debt and you're like, oh, I don't think I could do this. Know that it's possible. Mine was $30,000, but for some people, especially people who are going to professional schools, it's even more than that. Keep trucking, keep going. It's possible. It might take you a little bit longer, but it's worth it. Like the feeling of freedom is absolutely worth it. Honestly, this whole process has made me feel really empowered. It made me realize that the hard things that people say you can't do, you actually can. In the meantime, I'm still maintaining a budget. I'm giving myself more room now to enjoy my life a little bit more. Like the other day, I was like, oh, I want to buy this coat and it's so expensive. I was like, oh, I have money now. I have money now. I've always had money, I guess, because it was coming through my paycheck, but it was all going to debt, so I felt like I didn't touch it. It wasn't mine. I think I'm still kind of going to do some of that for savings, money that I just don't touch at all, that it just goes into my savings and it goes into the other goals like travel and nonprofit stuff and like business ventures and all those types of things. As far as maintaining my budget, maintaining good habits, I have the envelope system. I think I mentioned it earlier. Dave Ramsey talks about the cash envelope. I just use one of these coupon accordion folders, they call them. I got it from the Target or the dollar store, I don't recall. And it's towards the end of the month right now, so I'm at the end of my budget. At the end of the month is when my budget kind of like goes to shambles, and it's like, oh, I have all this money and I didn't budget for these leftovers really well. So I just start carrying cash towards the end where I'm like, when the cash is gone, it's gone. For other things, I have started just using my debit card. And if I'm doing travel, I use my credit card for travel because I get like some kind of travel rewards. And I've had to adjust my budget to give myself a little bit of leeway, almost like a reward. Like, thank you for being diligent. Here's a little more in your budget, but nothing over the top. The budgets didn't shift all that much. Yeah, so I'm back. Sorry for taking so long. Like I said, was paying off my debt and establishing my nonprofit, two things of which I'm very, very proud of, and I'm really glad I took the time to do that. But for now, I'm back. So let's make some videos, y'all. Thanks for watching. Bye.
I finished paying, selling, maybe.
Paying off your debt deserves a good body roll, I'd say.